Hi everyone, thanks for watching tonight. The battle over Minnesota's voter ID amendment is beginning to heat up as we move closer to Election Day. A panel discussion was held today in Walker with both sides giving plenty of reasons why the proposed constitutional amendment may or may not be a good thing. Lacey Monteleone is live in the studio with more, and Lacey joins us now. Lacey, what can you tell us?
As for proponents of the voter ID amendment, the issue is simple. Requiring more people to use a voter ID will help put a stop to voter fraud. But opponents of the amendment say at its best, it will create an inconvenience for voters, and at its worst, it's discrimination.
I know a lot of people that don't have driver's license or state of Minnesota identification cards.
That was the main concern voiced at a panel discussion hosted today by the Leech Lake Band. Many concerned that the new voter ID amendment will render their tribal IDs no longer acceptable for voting. Representative Larry House says the concerns are unnecessary.
It's already in law that they can use their tribal ID card to vote. This constitutional amendment says a government-issued ID card.
Yet for opponents of the amendment, that language is too vague, and the potential costs associated with the amendment are too much.
$10s, $20s, $50 or more of expenses for folks that are, many of folks in my district and live in those outlying communities, they don't have a lot of money. They don't have vehicles in many instances. I see it as a burden, akin to a poll tax.
They can get that identification. The state must pay for it. In the case of tribal members, it would probably be pretty easy for them because they can get a tribal ID card.
Still, opponents say it's a lot of trouble to go through when the problem the amendment is supposed to solve may not even be a problem.
There isn't any voter fraud. People are who they say they are.
I've seen it both ways. I've seen times when I don't believe there's any fraud or very little. I've seen times when it's very suspicious.
Clearly an issue with very little room for agreement, but here's a little extra information about the voter ID amendment. About 33 states already have voter ID laws in varying forms. Costs for IDs vary from state to state, but in states where IDs are free, which Minnesota would offer if the amendment passes, costs can still be incurred through paying for birth certificates and transportation. Estimated cost for implementing the amendment in Minnesota varies from $36 million to $78 million for combined local and state costs. But proponents argue that some of those costs can be made back because fewer election judges will need to be hired and less money will be spent on investigating and prosecuting voter fraud cases. Dennis.
Okay, thanks Lacey for the live report tonight from our studio. Now, about 62% favor the voter ID amendment.
If you've enjoyed this segment of Lakeland News, please consider making a tax-deductible contribution to Lakeland Public Television.